If you've been around this channel long enough, this machine should need no introduction, but for those who are a bit newer here, and I say a bit generously because I think the last time I've talked about this machine was more than a decade ago, if not actually a decade ago, but this machine is a Dell Latitude E6420. I know, haha, we got the lead number in there, but this is a sentimental machine. Maybe not to you. You might be thinking, well, what's so special about this machine? And this kind of was around when I was really getting my start on YouTube, because my channel might be from 2007, but I didn't really actually start using this channel until around 2013 or so, when I met up with Ryan Garrett, who went by Dell 0304 back then. And as his name would have implied, he was a Dell fanboy, and still kind of is. But back then, how we met is I gave him a Galaxy Nexus, and when I went to ask, hey, where do you want me to ship this thing? It turns out he was actually fairly local to me. So I just drove over to him, handed it off, and, well, that got everything kind of started. And he then wanted to get rid of his Dell Inspiron 14Z, which he did that because he was upgrading to one of these machines. And we cut a deal, and I ended up with that machine. But then later on, he upgraded to a MacBook Pro and had to get rid of his E6420. So I once again reached out to him, and we struck out another deal, and I ended up with that E6420. And I've actually had a couple of these machines over the years. I believe 2 E6420s and an E6430. And these machines are just lovely, and I really do think that was when Dell was on top of their game. And these could also be had for a song back when they were still really, really good machines, because it turns out businesses are incredibly wasteful, and when they upgrade, this stuff ends up with liquidators who then flip it on eBay for pennies on the dollar just to make a quick buck. So even though these machines were, still very good for the time, you can still get them for like a couple $100. And that was a hell of a lot of value for what you got here, especially if you got one that was fully loaded with the business grade dedicated graphics, because yeah, it couldn't game super well compared to contemporary gaming focused graphics cards, but it was still better than the integrated graphics that you got with the Intel CPUs at the time. As for my E6420, this is not the same one I had back then. I sold it off when I upgraded, but another YouTuber sold me his Dell Precision M4700, which I do not have anymore, but I have its cousin, which shared the very same design for the most part, right here. And that was a very good machine, and unfortunately, I got rid of it in a failed Craigslist trade because I wanted a smaller machine to travel with at the time because I was going around a lot, and I brokered a trade for a 13-inch 2011 MacBook Pro that turned out was waterlogged, and the way it was manifesting that problem was it was just slow, and I thought it was just because they had Yosemite on it, so I had no idea, and unfortunately I got ripped off, but thankfully things worked out and I ended up with a working MacBook at the end of the day. But enough about the past, let's talk about the present. So this was an e-waste score, and it looked relatively untouched in the bin, so I'm very happy to have acquired it, and let's give it the tour, just in case you need a refresher. We have an SD card slot up at the front, and unfortunately the cover is missing, but again, I mean, that was very used, and still is. I mean, that's why Apple gave us one on the newer MacBook Pros now. But let me just put this in here, and yep, works perfectly fine. On the side here, we've got Express Card slot, which doesn't surprise me that the guide is still here because Express Card, I feel, never really took off, even though it was kind of cool. Never really got used all that much, which is why Apple ended up dropping it from their MacBook Pros a couple years in, I feel. We have our DVD CDRW drive, which is removable with this little tab here. Wireless on-off switch. 2 USB 2.0 with a third integrated into this eSATA port, which that is incredibly useful for drive docks and such. Round back, we have HDMI, a knockout for the modem, which is not installed. We have the standard Dell barrel jack here. We have gigabit Ethernet. Then around the other side, we have USB 2.0 again, so we have a grand total of 4 ports, which is awesome. VGA, because business laptop. combination headphone microphone jack here, and a smart card slot. I believe that's what it's called. I could be very wrong about that. And yeah, that's the machine from the outside, so let's open it up. And as we can probably see here, this machine has relatively little miles on the keyboard and palm rest. The soft touch is not degrading on the palm rest yet, which is quite awesome. Tells me this was kept in a fairly ideal environment at the very least. The keyboard doesn't have any shiny spots on it, so that tells me the keyboard was relatively lightly used. I'm guessing if this machine saw any heavy use, it was in a dock with an external keyboard and mouse. So I'm very happy to have this because it is very pristine. The trackpad isn't even shiny, nor are the buttons. I mean, the buttons do look a little bit, but not much. It's really not been used all that much. But as you can see, this is fully loaded in one respect here, and it's got the upgraded palm rest with the fingerprint sensor and RFID reader. Sadly, that's kind of where this ends, because otherwise this is a, I believe, mid-range model, because these did come with i3s, I want to say, but this has an i5 in it. It's also got 4 gigs of RAM, and it came with no hard drive. But before we turn it around and talk about the hard drive situation, let's talk about the overall design, because man, this is pretty. I think these laptops are attractive in a way that MacBook Pros just aren't. They've got this nice bluish color, which blue is one of my favorite colors, so I'm a little biased there. We've got this chrome ring, which is metal, and there's like no flex in the lid at all like you would have on contemporary consumer-grade laptops. If we reopen the machine, we can see the keyboard, yeah, the keys, you know, they move around a little bit, but there is no deck flex on the keyboard. Like, that was such a thing back then. If you put pressure on the keyboard, the deck would just flex and bow and creak. This doesn't. This is solid. And I'm very happy about that. I really love this keyboard. I'd rank it above a ThinkPad keyboard even, and I know the ThinkPad fanboys are going to come at me for that one. But now if we flip it over, and this is why I wanted to talk about the design before we get to the bottom here, you can see right there, it says magnesium reinforced, I believe, or, you know, magnesium, whatever it says. I do not have my glasses on, but this is what Dell called the tri-metal design, because you have 3 different types of metal, and it's built like a damn tank. And I really love these machines. I wish we had modern ones, because the Latitude line kind of isn't what it used to be. I mean, it doesn't even exist anymore because Dell rebranded all of their machines, and I don't know why they did that, because nameplate recognition is a really important thing, and people knew the Latitude meant business in a good way. So this is not going to turn into a Dell rant video, I promise. But I did have a little bit of fun with the hard drive here, because this does have a spinner in it, but I kind of had to get a little creative because the caddy was gone, and by the caddy I meant the cover here. And I'm probably not going to deal with trying to get that out, but you can tell it's a little mismatched, and that's because I actually 3D printed a replacement cover for this, and I did it out of ABS, and this is the first time I've actually really printed something in ABS that was more complicated than a little itty-bitty model, so it came out really good, and the finish is very nice, and it doesn't match the rest of the machine, but you know what? It looks good enough as it is. So I'm going to spoil the rest of the video a little bit by telling you that this thing does work, and I've got something installed on it. But I want to take the bottom cover off to see if we can improve this machine a little bit here. So let's get right to that. I really need to put some hard drive screws in here because those do help hold the bottom pan on, but get this slowly off here. And this, I don't think this has ever been opened because that did not come off very easily. But here we go. This is what I also love about these Latitudes. As you can see here, the entire machine is just out here for us to mess with. We've got our RAM, we've got our drives, and here's that bracket I printed, or caddy I printed. Bracket, caddy, whatever you want to call it. My brain is not doing so great at the moment. Put that aside. But yeah, everything is here and easily accessible. So what I'm going to do first is take off the heatsink, because this probably needs to be repasted because it is over 10 years old, and I have heard the fan kind of aggressively run So let's see if this has ever been taken care of. And yeah, this has never been serviced. So there's no dust in here, which is quite nice. So this, again, has been used in a very ideal environment. And you can see another thing I like about laptops of this era. That CPU was socketed. I could put an i7 in here if I truly wanted to, and it would probably just work fine. Can't do that anymore. It's really unfortunate. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and I'm going to put some good old goopy thermal paste on here. So let's take care of that real quick with a cotton swab. I'm using just my microfiber here to help this out just a little bit. So let's get the thermal paste out and get this thing done and done. I really do not like using this stuff because it tends to get everywhere. In fact, some of the stains you may see on my workbench, and yeah, it's already started to get on me, are actually from this thermal paste getting everywhere. This is very, very messy. So let's put this back on, and do not do like me back in the day and replace that thermal pad with something else, like more thermal paste, because it doesn't work. And I'm only doing this finger tight on this screwdriver. Don't need to go any more than that. So we have 4 gigs of RAM in here, and I'm going to say this is probably OEM. This is PC3-10600S. So let's see if I have any more RAM that would go in here, because that would certainly be a help, because I was definitely running low on RAM when I had this thing booted up. So for that, we get the RAM bin. Actually, no, we don't get the RAM bin because this is desktop RAM. Yeah, here we go. Here's our laptop RAM with more 3D printed goodness to contain the mess within. So now I get to find some DDR3, so I will be right back. And we have fruit. So let's hope 2 of these modules work. And I guess we will start with the Samsung ones because they are pretty matched. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the laptop over and fire it up. I'll probably do this off camera. Then we'll get into the next part, and hopefully when I see you guys next, things will be good. All right, now for the finale. Sometimes it false starts. That's really interesting. And yeah, now we're booting. And there we go, we have our 8 gigs of RAM and our i5-2520M, which maybe I'll upgrade to an i7 at some point, I don't know yet, but we were manufactured at the end of 2011, and yeah, battery information is normal, so my battery luck has gone undefeated thus far. And there's our boot sequence. This laptop does have UEFI, but I'm not really making use of it because, back then it was more trouble than it was worth. Make it easy on myself, why not? So let's go to system configuration. And as we can see, like I said, this is a mid-range model without the dedicated graphics, because there were models with, I believe, an NVIDIA NVS on board, but sadly this one does not have that. So let's let it boot. And because the date and time have reset when we pulled the battery, the CMOS battery is sadly kaput at this point. So at some point, I probably need to fix that. And we shut off for some reason. Starting to think maybe this RAM wasn't actually good. Okay, it's gonna boot. Not sure why it's having weird power issues all of a sudden. See, also, I kind of messed up on putting the lip back on here, but I'll get back into this thing later. Now, the biggest upgrade I could probably make to this thing is putting an SSD in here, but sadly, I am not Draga 1, and I don't have a lot of extra SSDs, and that would imply I have any when I don't. So, let's fire up the terminal. It's going to take a minute, because again, we're on a spinning hard drive here. And give it the good old Neo fetch. There we go. We are running Linux Mint XFCE edition 22.2. And this really is going to be just that, a Linux experimenting machine, because Windows 10 is going out of support next month. And I mean, I could just flip the bird to Microsoft and load LTSC on this thing, or just continue using Windows 10, or force load Windows 11 on here. But I've also been wanting to kind of experiment with Linux a little bit, and I'm not going to switch to it full time ever, but it would be cool to just have a laptop to mess about with it. So yeah, there's really nothing on here, unfortunately. I can go ahead and connect to the internet real quick. So let's fire up Firefox, pun not intended, and go watch some YouTube maybe. Again, spinning rust. This is going to be excruciatingly longer than it needs to be. And I need to pare down Firefox here, but it's not what I wanted to do, but thank you. And, you know, I'm feeling in a Mac mood today. Apple Macintosh 84. That's no Mac 84. This is loading a lot faster than it did on 4 gigs of RAM, so hey, this video is strangely relevant. Let's go ahead and watch it. And yeah, we're gonna get ads because I'm not signed in. Oh, shut up, YouTube.
Watch a movie or a TV series and just lose myself in the immersion and the storytelling. And it really stinks when, well, it just breaks down on you. So today, we're going to try and fix this.
So we are watching at 1080p, and it is holding its own. So yeah, I mean, it does 1080p 30 perfectly fine. I'm not seeing any frame drops, but let's see if I can find a 60 FPS video here. Oh yeah, let's melt this poor machine. So we're in 1080 60, and this video is really beautiful. It's a good bit of test footage, and we're getting a little bit of frame droppage, but this really represents a worst case scenario, because this video is heavy. I use this to stress test my 4K setups, and it does really well at stress testing your hardware, so it's holding up. I mean, I see a few frame drops here and there, but that could be down to Linux. That could be... Again, this machine is 14 years old in a month or so, so I mean, it's holding up relatively well considering its age. So yeah, that's really kind of it for this video. Not much else to say. I don't have anything installed. I haven't really messed with Linux or dug my teeth into it, so yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this kind of blast from the past of a machine that for most people is a whatever machine, but it is very sentimental to me because this machine did a lot for me and I have very fond memories of it. So hopefully you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, for me at least. Till next time, I will see you guys later.